All right. Is it live? I'm live. Welcome back to Anatomy and Physiology Live. This is your professor, Dr. Sean Clavel. We are in the spring of 2025, and we are going through week 6 of a 16-week semester. So we're kind of at the almost at the halfway point here, right? Like we're a little bit past, a little bit more than a third of the way through the semester, cruising on into the halfway point. We are, excuse me, got a little bit of a scratchy throat today. We are moving into a couple of topics that might be new associated with the anatomy and physiology. We looked at histology last week. We'll look into a little bit more histology this week, and the integumentary system this week. So take a look at the integumentary system lecture that is posted here on the canvas. So this is pull that up and give you anything that's new on the canvas real fast. Again, so your class primarily lives in the modules, and under chapter 4 and 5 you'll see that there's chapter 4, chapter 5. We'll get into chapter 5 this week. I encourage you to start reading into that, taking out the lectures in chapter 5 where we get into the integumentary system. And we looked at the lab assignment tissues and histology, which was due last last week, and or this week, early this week, and now we're into lab assignment number 8, which is kind of a discussion board. It's not one of the scientific interactive, but we've got a post here, so you'll be put into groups, and you'll work on each of these groups. Group number 1 is burns. Group number 2 is skin malignancy. Group number 3 is wound healing. Group number 4 is pressure ulcers. So you'll be getting to a group there, and you'll post your answers to the questions. So you'll click on that PDF there. It's got 10 questions, right? 10 questions that you will be prepared to post into the canvas there. And so those are the 10 questions. You can work in groups. I worked on it so that like you'll kind of be assigned into groups, but again, we'll see how that works out. I may change this, but I just want to get an idea of how this is working. But hopefully you'll turn in your own portion for credit. So this is our lab assignment. It's called an idea of a grand round. So you're kind of looking at different medical topics. And again, we'll look at burns, we'll look at malignancy, so cancers, right? Skin cancer specifically, wound healing, pressure ulcers, and the like. Get a glass of water in here. It's all ice, no water. No worries. But the test for this section will be posted. We get back into their canvas. It's going to be opening on February the 27th. So a week from tomorrow, right? A week from tomorrow, it'll be open all the way until Sunday. So like our tests have previously, open on Thursday all the way till Sunday, where it will be completed Sunday night at midnight. It'll be due. And so just to kind of hit a nice little hit, just to reiterate on the topics that we've talked about here in the last week and this week. So we talked about histology, and you can see there the topics related to histology. There's the 4 major types of tissues, whether it's epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, or nervous tissue. There are, what is that? 4 different types of epithelium. There's, I think, 9 different types of connective tissue, 3 different types of muscle tissue that you'll be asked to identify on like a microscope image. And nervous tissue, the big component is knowing the different parts of the neuron. When we get into the integumentary system, and I'll add a little bit here as we get into the integumentary system, we're going to talk about the layers of the skin. So the epidermis is, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's made it disappear, didn't I? And then the epidermis is the kind of the most superficial. You've got the dermis, which is, I kind of think of it as the core of the integument, right? It is vascular. It is it's innervated, meaning it's got nerves, and then the hypodermis, not really strictly part of the integumentary system, but this is the deepest. Keep clicking on the slide there. And then as the epidermis is related, there are five, let's say it this way, 4 or 5 layers, to the epidermis. They include from superficial to deep, there is corneum, lucidum, granulosum, and basal. Right? And again, from superficial. Oh, I missed one, didn't I? Spinosum. And there you go. So, corneum, come, let's get sunburned, right? From superficial to deep. The dermis has 2 layers, right? Made up of 2 layers. The layers include the papillary, the reticular, right? And so the hypodermis, primarily, it's again not strictly a part of the integument. It's 1 layer, but primarily adipose and loose connective tissue, right? So again, what do you want to know is what type, so like in this layer here, the corneum, like what type of cells here, I'll put it like this, right? So what do you want to be able to know now? Now the big thing is, let's see if we can highlight this, right? Like what are the type of cells, as well as being able to identify it. So that's I guess maybe even the first part, right? Be able to identify on like a microscope or anything like that. The second part is what are the types of cells that you would see in terms of like what is it, right? Like what is that tissue and some characteristics of it. So the 5 layers of the epidermis, the 2 layers of the dermis, being familiar with that. And then there are, as we get into the next part here, and I won't get into it too much, we'll save a little bit for next week as well, but getting into the topics related to, let's talk about the accessory. Right? So the accessory structures of the skin include hair, nails, and glands. And so these are primarily extensions of the epidermis. So as primarily extensions of the epidermis, they are made up of keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium, just like we see with the epidermis, as opposed to connective tissue. It's not made up of connective tissue. It's made up of that stratified squamous epithelium. hair, particularly, and nails, and then your glands are made up of usually a single layer of some type of epithelial cell, cuboidal in nature. And so you'll take a look at these different types of glands is associated with that. And then we get into a little bit of the functions of skin, right? So you're thinking about thermoregulation, protection, like from chemicals, mechanical, and other stresses. I can't think of any others right now, but I mean, you can imagine like a chemical burn. You're thinking about UV, right? Protection from UV stresses, right? So ultraviolet radiation as well, right? So it's also, again, a source of vitamin D. We'll just say vitamin D production. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I think thermoregulation. Yeah, those are the big major ones, right? And so the last part is what happens when something goes wrong, right? So injuries to the skin might it be called. And the things you want to focus on as it relates to the injuries of the skin are going to be burns. How do you classify burns types and classifications? Malignancy, also referred to as cancer, right? Pressure ulcers or pressure wounds. Yeah, and I think those are the major ones that I'm thinking about, and it relates to those in terms of the integumentary system. So, first half is really look at the cells, the tissue types, the things associated with it. The second half, we're going to be looking at some of the accessory structures, the functions of the skin, and some of the injuries that can occur. So I encourage you guys, take a look at that chapter there. You got a brand new lab out there. Take a try and get it started a little bit early. I gave you a couple extra days than usual to get that lab started to see if how you guys responded, and if I needed to make any adjustments, right, if as necessary. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that lab and keep up all the good hard work that you're doing as it relates to this semester. We're almost, as I mentioned, we're almost to the halfway point, guys. Keep up the good hard work. Take a look at that lab assignment. Not a lot of points. I just wanted to give it like a try it out in this setting here. So get it started, do a little bit of work, see how it comes along, and I look forward to seeing your guys' responses this in the next week or so. So again, good luck. You guys stay safe, take care, and I am out.